Good morning, everybody. It's me, Robert Phoenix, and we are here for another edition of the Astro Weather. Today is Tuesday, September 26th, 2023, the year of our Lord. How is everyone? We got a Julia Payne from New Zealand. It's already your day, a new day for you. Welcome, Julia. Elizabeth Bryan is here, and my man Thor, Road Trip 1981. From San Antonio, Tejas. So far, so good. Kelly and the kids are back in action, and so are we. And why don't we jump into the Astro Weather? And the weather clearly has changed, and for the better. It's not as torrid as it's been. Torpid. All right, let's see what we got. Let's dial it up. By the way, I hope everybody is having a great start to their day. And for people like Julia, maybe you're up late, or maybe you are starting your day. Sometimes people do start their day at 2 a.m. We are now in Libra. I think this is our first official Astro Weather for Libra. All the industrious, hardworking, busy beaver days of Virgo are behind us. And we move into a bit of a more cerebral time. That's one of the qualities of Libra. And we have Sun Palace here moving into conjunction with one another. And the ability to perceive and understand patterns and perceptions in relationship, or patterns in relationship, is becoming clearer with the Sun Palace conjunction. And the sun is coming out of that opposition with Neptune. And looks like we might have dodged a few bullets here with the Sun-Neptune opposition, which is good. It's good. Dodging bullets is always good. Although on a personal level, we've all had to kind of deal with that over the weekend. A bit of a malaise, actually, really starting since Thursday, Wednesday of last week. I don't know how your energy's been, but it's going to get better. It's going to be better as the sun pulls away from Neptune. Mars in very prickly Libra is, well, it's not always prickly. Sometimes Mars in Libra can be aggressively diplomatic, let's say. Aggressively diplomatic. But it is coming up on the South Node. That's going to happen right around the 12th of October. So this is all going to be in eclipse territory. And right when we have the eclipse, the Mars is changing signs and going into Scorpio. If you remember our members, the 11th house, just put together the newsletter last night. I get into this in some greater detail. What else do we have here? We still have this Mars Venus sextile, though Venus is starting to separate a little bit more. And that's been actually a really good sextile for finding some common purpose and working together. Now, as Venus continues its ingress towards Virgo, we now come into more of this square with Uranus and Jupiter. So I would say that there's probably still some potential for cooperation and getting things done together, although now we have a bit more interference coming into play with sudden disruptions that are always a part of that. Any kind of square with Uranus, you go into sort of a suddenly disruptive mode, especially around relationships, relating, agreements, things like that. Small things get big with the Venus-Jupiter square. So things get kind of blown up, and you may want to reconsider what's big and what's small, right? What's the saying knows about the small stuff. But we see that the luminaries are very close to the asteroids, or getting closer to the asteroids. We have Venus conjunct the vertex. So there is this feeling that you want to create something new or experience something new, something vital, in relationship, and something healing, right? There's that trine with Chiron, and maybe your current relationship that you're in can experience some healing in something that's that's new, or not even really new. That's an unfair kind of it's not a statement, unfair sort of corollary. Sort of breaking the cycle or breaking the pattern of things, and I do think that this is a time where you can dialogue with people. You can have your needs met as long as you dialogue with the person, and don't allow it to get disruptive unless you want it to be disruptive. And sometimes people want disruption in their relationships. We've got the moon in Aquarius today, and by tomorrow it's going to be in a conjunction with Saturn. That's going to be kind of an intense moon Saturn conjunction. We already did that once in September. That was just coming off of the new moon, right? When it was in September. So this is going to be a bit different here, and it won't be an exact full moon. We won't get that exact full moon until it goes into Aries. Of course, that's going to be an eclipse. Man, we're not that far away from this whole thing. That's going to be very, very intense. I'm sorry, uh, my bad. The moon in Libra, so that's going to be all the way around here. Uh, the moon in Aquarius allows us to detach. Today's kind of a complicated day. Like the more I spend with this chart, we have all of these squares going on. We do have a mystic rectangle, so it's one of those days where, like a cat, you can land on your feet. But there's some perils today, right? There's who's going to budge, what's going to give. Mars in Libra, while promoting fairness, justice, and equality, sometimes people don't want to give that up, right? Well, you budge first, or you make the first concession, right? You make the first concession, and then I'll do my part. That's not really going to work. I think that the best energies today, if we're looking at how to stay in the groove or stay in the pocket, it's the Mars moon trine. That's actually an interesting. That's an interesting trine. That one really gets into being able to be more detached, and there's so many things going on with today's chart. We've got a lot of like action with fixed planets. We got the moon in Aquarius, Venus in Leo, Uranus, Jupiter in Taurus. So it's breaking up fixed patterns, and using cardinal energy to assert, in some ways, one's ability to break up these patterns and navigate through them and land on your feet like a cat. Mars is going to start to come into more of a square with Pluto. It's just starting to come in now, and that's very intense. Very, very intense. People are going to be much more demanding about their personal rights. We're going to hear more and more about this stuff. To me, a lot of this is also in this country and other parts of the world, we're being put through these forced immigration programs. Isn't it nice? Isn't it fun? So we have this Mars Pluto square. It feels to me like people are not having it. People are not having it. Like, how long are New Yorkers going to be able to keep a lid on what's happening in their city? That, to me, that Mars Pluto square is just a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. I hope not literally, but that's what it feels like. And the closer it gets to Pluto, the more that the intensity around that Mars Pluto square rises, and people are not happy about it. And it's going to be very close to that south node as it moves. And it's like, well, remember this, remember this. There's a lot of um, there's a lot of digging. There's a lot of digging around for misdeeds and things that have happened. And somewhere out there, people are keeping score. They have a checkbook or a notebook and they're keeping score. It's like Deion Sanders. I'm taking notes, keeping notes, taking names. The sun is still in a kind of a wide inconjunct with Saturn. By the end of the day, that's going to change. Well, not really. It's at 311. So we'll have this inconjunct with Saturn for one more day. And honestly, I think this is one of those days where, with the sun in Libra, people probably rather take it off than engage with their everyday routines, right? That's my sense. And then we have Mercury with the Mercury in conjunct with Chiron. Words heal and words wound. I would say pick your words wisely with the Mercury Chiron in conjunct. And what else? What else we have happening? Uranus and Jupiter are all still rolling backwards, and I'm still hearing like minor horror stories about banks and some of the things going on with individual accounts and banks. We keep our eye on that. And then the moon squaring Uranus and squaring today's kind of a mess, I have to say. There's so much going on. There's so much demand for attention, and it feels like and the other thing too about this chart is that it is a classic seesaw chart. You've got activity on one side and activity on the other side. So whenever we get into a pattern like this, it feels like our energies are being pulled in a lot of different directions. I'm over here. No, I'm over here. So this is lining up somewhere in your chart, right? The seesaw pattern is going to be in your chart somewhere. And it's going to affect your own planets, which are another level of interpretation for daily astrology. But we don't have time to get into that today. But I would say overall, this is a challenging day. And people are trying to maintain their equanimity. They're trying to maintain their composure. The cool moon in Aquarius is trying to be objective. It keeps getting sucked in by intensity, some level of high drama. You get some of that, by the way, with Venus in Leo. And there's some Earth in the sky, but it's Mercury, it's Virgo. It's trying to figure out how to fix things, how to make things better. And here's what I would say. I'll put the cap on our chart of the moment or our chart of the morning. I feel like the key is this Chiron Mercury in conjunct. And to me, it's like if you have an instinct around saying something as it relates to another person, don't sit on it. Right? Don't sit on it. Act on it. Act on it, even if it's awkward. You can work through the awkwardness. At the very least, the sun in Libra can be congenial as you work through the awkwardness. I would say overall, this is again, it's a complex day. There's a lot of competition for your energy and your attention. At the end of the day, literally at the end of the day, I think with this mystic rectangle, you can land on your feet. You can land on your feet, but I would say tread lightly. Tread lightly and pick your battles. Pick your battles. All right. Let's get into our star of the day. Our star of the day is somebody who some of you may or may not know of, but we're really aging ourselves now when we talk about individuals like Darby Crash. Darby Crash is our star of the. Who is Darby Crash? Darby Crash was the lead singer, I guess if you call it singing, for a punk rock band called The Germs. And The Germs were popular in LA. Well, popular again is another loose term. I mean, they were punk rock icons. And they had, like a lot of these bands, they started off like, the Germs were around the LA scene the same time as the Clash, not the Clash, X. And X had all the markings of a band that wanted to make good, clean, intense records. Like they sounded good. X sounded real, and even some of the punk rock uh, bands that were more edgy than X, like around that time, like Fear and Black Flag. There were elements of music in their music. I wouldn't say that the Germs had those same aspirations. And Darby Crash became known as this wild man. Like he was somebody who was uh, very much what we call like a situationist, and punk rock was a perfect outlet for him. And he he would take copious amounts of drugs. Like Darby was a massive drug taker, and he would perform kind of self abuse rituals on stage. Um, and he was doing things back then that nobody else was doing. He was very, very provocative. He was very funny, though, too. There was something very humorous about him. And you can see here that there are some things in this chart that clearly demonstrate at least his behavior in public, right? I think there was a movie about the Germs called "We Do This in Public." Am I right? What's the Germs movie? If you're interested in, they actually made a movie out of Darby Crash and the Germs. What's the name of it? Give me 1 second here, and I'll dive into this chart. What We Do Is Secret. What We Do Is Secret. So they actually made a movie about the Germs. It's the moon in Pisces. Like this is what's on display in the world. And the moon in the 10th house is how do we say this? Well, it has a certain amount of lunacy involved. And so here, the moon can capture the public's imagination, but it is anything but Apollonian. It is clearly Dionysian. And Darby Crash is really trying to break free from some stultifying conditions in his own life, right? I don't know anything about Darby. Well, I know a few things about Darby Crash. I don't know a lot about his home life. But I can tell you right now, it was very structured. It was very, very structured, highly critical. He got atomized at some point in time. Maybe it was through a divorce. But he has all of this intense Virgo energy and this stellium where all these planets are just sitting on top of one another. And the moon in Pisces is his escape from that. It's his escape from his upbringing. It's his escape from all the rules and the order and the regulation that at one point in time were part of his life. And the moon is the trajectory. It's where he can lose, all of the heavy duty baggage. He's got a lot of baggage. Darby Crash has a lot of baggage. And he's trying to do everything in his power to lose that baggage through drugs, intoxication, right? And that like kind of wild Piscean moon behavior on stage. And he's a Gemini rising, so he's always going to have his hands in a couple of different worlds, right? That's the nature of Gemini rising. And that incredibly restless Mars, I think the planets in his chart that really in some ways speak to Crash's propulsion, if you want to use the term, is that Mars really restless in Gemini in the 12th house, and the Pluto square. To me, that almost feels like a death trip. And I know people have Mars Pluto squares, but it's not like you have Mars in Gemini in the 12th house clashing against that very sort of Victorian and prudish Pluto and Virgo. And he's definitely part of this drug generation with Neptune and Scorpio. And Jupiter is insatiable here in the fifth house, right? He's a bottomless pit for what he puts into his system in terms of drugs and recreation. And he probably was interested in being an actor at one point. Maybe he was in the drama class in school, but he is definitely into more, right? That's the nature of Jupiter and Neptune. And then we have this Mars in conjunct, and he's literally on a crash course in his life with this insatiable appetite for drugs and intoxication and pleasure. I mean, the fifth house is all about pleasure too. It's not that he was trying to run away from whatever kind of heavy duty, hardcore upbringing that he had. He's also into it. He likes it. He likes the feeling, or he liked the feeling of completely getting lost in blotto and activating this crazy ass motherfucking Mars in the 12th house, which sextiles his moon. And his performances were legendary in a lot of ways. And could his life have kind of worked out in some other fashion? Like, could he have used that Mars and Gemini and entrined all that Virgo down there in his fourth house, and had the Mars Sun trine and been a productive member of society? I don't know. A lot of judgment there with Saturn, Sagittarius. I think Darby Crash might have been gay. His father, whoever his father was, forever long he was around, probably didn't like him very much. Probably was again with Sagittarius, some sort of religious standard that this guy was just not going to comply to. He was not going to comply to it. He's got Uranus in the third house. Had he stuck around long enough, he might have been fairly innovative and might have been able to work out the tension between, and I think they were signed to a record deal, if I'm not mistaken. Like, they wasn't just an indie deal. But this was never going to be a band that was going to put out hit records. But had he stayed around long enough, he might have been able to sort of work through some of this, and he might have been able to become perhaps more of a musician versus a spectacle, because that's really what he was. Darby was a total spectacle. He was a wild man. He was a wild man, and the wild nature. In fact, he even did a song called "Manimal." The Germs had a song called "Manimal," and to me, the kind of wild nature. He's sort of like the gay punk rock version of Jim Morrison, only a lot sloppier, right? That's Darby Crash. But I just don't think that he was built for the long term. Like, I just don't see Darby Crash kind of straightening things out and opening a vegan cafe somewhere on the strip, right? Like, that's not going to be Darby Crash's future. And that Mars Pluto square, and that like intensely restless Mars in the 12th house, and the in conjunct with the consumption and the overconsumption of all these substances. Forget about it. But you can see it all worked out here, especially with this moon in Pisces, desperately trying to express himself and exercise whatever kind of like weird intensity that he was raised with. This is a guy that wants to get out of his skin. But he also, with Jupiter, Neptune, kind of enjoys being in the skin. So he can uh, indulge in the overconsumption of Jupiter and Neptune. So there's your star of the day. The late Darby Crash, singer of the Germs. And if you're looking for music that's going to uplift you and put a happy little step in your day, it's not the Germs. Although there are some people who like that sort of thing. It sort of lightens their mood. I'm not one of them. Although I do appreciate what he tried to do on like a punk rock level and on an artistic level. All right, so here's the capper. Tricky day today. A lot going on. A lot of divergent energies pulling you in a number of different places. And I would say the best thing you can do to skillfully navigate it is to take the first step in communication, find out what's going wrong, and what can be better. Okay. To me, that's the key today. It's that Mercury Chiron in conjunct, and even the efforts to stay cool and removed and detached with the Aquarian moon may not meet its best results. It's a test. It's a test. Okay, let's talk about True Hemp Science. My buddy Chris over at True Hemp Science. And his company is the sponsor of the show. And let me give you this little visual here. It's a nice visual. It's a very nice visual. You guys can just get into the ASMR of True Hemp Science. There it is. Ah, yes. If you have any interest in CBD, this is the place you want to go, right? You can speak to an expert, and that expert being our good friend Chris. You can make an appointment, and you can look at, well, not just look at. I'll give you a bird's eye view. You can look at all their different products here, and Chris will give you the insight onto which product is the most beneficial for whatever it is you're looking to experience some relief from. Come on, get in here. Get in here. Where's the product? Come on, here we go. Let's try CBD oil. There we go. Maybe we get specific. It looks like it's my internet connection. Anyway, we'll go back. We'll give you the ASMR. The ASMR. It's all right there. There's his products. You got oils, you got edibles, water soluble. You've got CBD for pets. And a lot of people have really raved about pet sounds. So if your pet is anxious or you're going through a move or and you want to kind of calm your pet down, also the health benefits for your pet are clearly CBD has been proven with small traces of THC has been proven to be an efficacious agent in dealing with things like inflammation and any other interesting little maladies that your body has to deal with. And one of the things that Chris does talk about is really getting the body wet, right? Like we're always dehydrated. We don't get enough real water or real deep moisture in our bodies, and CBD helps with that. It's almost like a lubricant for your cells. So that's one of the other benefits for using CBD. You're basically lubricating your body. And of course, the edibles are epic. I had the sleep gummies last night, and they were terrific. So here's what you do: you order $100 or more, and type in 15 MINS 15 MINS. It's like 15 mins, and you'll get a goodie bag with your order. So it means you're going to get free product with your order. $150 or more, you get free shipping. So you're cutting down the cost of shipping at $150, plus you're getting the goodie bag. And who knows? I never asked Chris this question. Like, if you hit $150, do you get more of the goodie bag? I don't know. My sense is you probably do. And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. All right. Listen, I wish everybody a Very good day today in what I deem to be challenging astrological weather. Keep a smile on your face. Be the Libra diplomat. And who knows, it might get a little bit better. And don't let yourself get pulled apart with today's very divergent energies. Learn how to navigate, go from one side to the other side, one side to the other side, one side to the other side, in true hermetic Mercury and Virgo fashion. All right, that's it. Thanks for being here. Use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to step what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Please join me over on Rumble this morning. This afternoon, I've got a lot of administrative stuff to do, including fixing the website. So just hang in there with me one more day on Rumble for 15 minutes, and then we'll be good to go tomorrow over on 15 minutes. All right, take good care. Bye for now, everybody. See you.